All right, so we're back here on another special edition of Couch Coach Live as we continue our 10th annual NFL preview. Tonight on the menu, we have the AFC West. We'll be talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, the Denver Broncos, the LA Chargers, and the Las Vegas Raiders. And I said this without San Diego or Oakland involved. So kudos to myself. So we got a great show lined up for you. So we got to definitely introduce our panelists on here on our NFL preview. First we go. I got what's going on, D Hop.
What's going on? What's going on? It's Darion of the Nothing But Raider podcast. The podcast every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Raider Nation's in the building. I'm ready for the season. Let's get it.
We got our guy Jake the Snake. What's going on, Jake? It's been a while.
It has been a while, man, but I'm excited to be back behind the mic. And we know there's an awful lot of storylines, awful lot of expectations, but we can't wait for the 2023 season to literally start. I'm excited for it. Lots more to come, but we know that we got the highest paid quarterback that's got a lot of expectations in front of him for 2023.
And last but definitely not least, a fixture on our show. I know at least, especially during the football season and anything Denver Broncos related, our guy, Jordan Long. What's going on, Jordan?
Not much, man. I mean, I remember last year how excited I was for Russell Wilson, and you saw how that ended up. Then I came on, when they hired Sean Payton. I wasn't as excited, but you know what? I'm excited about Sean Payton.
Yeah, and man, that's the beauty about all this, where we had all this positive optimism for our teams. At this point, this is like the best part of the year where reality hasn't set in anything. So, we're all coming in, some positive expectations of our teams. So we're going to get started momentarily. So what we're going to do, we're going to kick that intro and we'll be right back here to start our 2023 AFC West preview. We'll be right back. What is going on? Okay. Yeah, and definitely shout out to our guy, Kevin Kirk. So we're back here on Couch Coach Live. Tonight we're previewing the AFC West. So the 10th annual Couch Coach Live NFL preview is powered by the good folks at SeatGeek. Head over to SeatGeek.com. Use the promo code CouchCoach to get yourself $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. And even that you want that's going on, SeatGeek got you covered. Just use the promo code CouchCoach and get $20 off your first purchase. So we'll go around the horn, fellas. So first we're going to talk about essentially what are the storylines to watch in the AFC West. And it can be team specific, and it also can be anything that you see within the division specific as well. So it's not limited to your respective team that you represent, because obviously we don't have your Super Bowl champion foe, unfortunately, so we got you guys here, so it's all good. So storylines to watch. I will go with you first, Jordan. What you got?
I'm going with the Denver Broncos. You look at, Sean Payton coming into town. We won 5 games last year. We fired Nathaniel Hackett after a 4-11 start. The question is, can Sean Payton do what he did in New Orleans? The other thing I'm looking at, especially for my team, is can we get Russell Wilson right? We saw what happened last year. He didn't look at Russell Wilson at Seattle. You put pressure on him, he threw interceptions. He was not looking directly at the receivers. I don't know what was going through his mind. Also, the fact of the matter is I like the hire Sean Payton, but can he, get this team to the Super Bowl, or not the Super Bowl, the playoffs, I should say. That's the goal. If I look at Kansas City, it's can they do it? Because we know they're the kings of the AFC West.
Yeah. All right, Jake, what you got?
I think the storyline, for at least the division, I would start with just the division itself is that coaching is going to be a huge storyline for this year for the AFC West, because ultimately the entirety of great coaching is running through Andy Reid, and we all know that. But we know that the Broncos hiring Sean Payton and what he's done so far, in at least the time that he's spent now as a Denver Bronco head coach. I mean, he's been spending most of his time ripping Nathaniel Hackett, really kind of setting the tone and being the alpha in the room that the Broncos really needed, because a lot of these players have been kind of getting away with a lot of what coaching style that Nathaniel Hackett had brought into the team. And we know it's a new ownership. We know it's a new GM, and we know that everything's kind of brand new. They're trying to reshape it, re-image it, and kind of give it a more of a positive focus for Bronco fans. But the start of it didn't look so good, but everybody likes a great comeback story, right? Everybody likes to hear about, okay, they knew that they admitted this didn't really work out well, but we have something even better. Sean Payton, I know, is a great head coach and a great example because, like Drew Brees, that people kind of just washed away from the time that he had been in his injured days with the Chargers. He finally brought himself back with the New Orleans Saints and won a Super Bowl in the end. And people were like, Russell Wilson, he did his own thing last year, and then look where it got him. It got him nowhere, to where he missed the playoffs, was not as accurate, not the same Russell Wilson feel where he was cooking, he was dealing. This time now, he's putting all of his trust on Sean Payton. And I think that is what really worked for Russell Wilson, and it's what said a lot about Pete Carroll in the end in Seattle. So coaching really does matter in this point. We know that there are two head coaches right now in this division that we know have question marks and hope that their expectations are met. And that's Josh McDaniels and Brandon Staley. This is the third year that we're going with Brandon Staley right now, where a lot of the criticism is on him because of his coaching schemes and his questionable calls of whether or not is it something that this team needed to do right. We know that injuries played a role with the Chargers, and not to mention too, they had an absolute blowout of a first half against the Jaguars, which we all know, and then they collapsed. But part of that reason is they got a new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. And one thing I will put into in about a couple minutes here, but the Raiders, though, this is another year with Josh McDaniels. Plus, there's a new quarterback at the helm. We know that right now that the Raiders have, Jimmy Garoppolo. He's healthy, so thank God. So that's a good sign for Raider fans. But this is also a time out of Derek Carr era. And we're trying to figure out, was Derek Carr the problem, or is this kind of the usual shenanigans right now for the Raiders? So nobody knows quite yet with it, but Jimmy Garoppolo looking like himself, throwing the ball accurately, and there's been several changes. Darren Waller's gone. Now they got Michael Mayer. So they are starting to boost themselves to where they're revamping. They're kind of changing a little bit of the culture to try to be competitive in the AFC West. Now, for the Chargers storyline is that this is a big year for them, because we know that high expectations are Justin Herbert finally got the bag. He's now the highest paid quarterback in the league, which means he has to play like it. Because we know that Mahomes, he's only 7th amongst quarterbacks right now being paid the highest. And he has 2 Super Bowl wins on his belt. Whereas a lot of these guys, Herbert got the bag, Joe Burrow's going to get the bag, and then you got Lamar Jackson. All those guys are high paid, but 0 Super Bowls altogether. So that's where the high expectation has to come into play. And this is where people are going to be proven wrong for this, because they thought, oh, Justin Herbert's overrated. Well, as I've said in the storylines, coaching matters in this league. You don't think that Joe Lombardi had everything to do with how this offense was ran. I mean, look at how the scoring points were. The first halves, they were about similar between him and Kellen Moore. But the difference was Kellen Moore was ranked second in second half points, whereas for Joe Lombardi, 28th. You will notice a difference with just how energetic this team is going to be. They're going to pass a lot. They've got some brand new weapons now with Quentin Johnston. So this is the time of year where they need to make the big leap. I know I've been saying this for a couple of times, but this year I do feel like is the year they need to make that leap, and they better make it quick, because by the time that annual salary finally kicks into play, the Chargers have a serious decision they have to make to kind of keep themselves within the medians of the annual salary payrolls.
Yeah, big time. And D-Hop, what you got?
Well, Jake just put it all out on the line for all three divisions. And I'm just gonna be completely honest, but the one thing that anybody did not say on this panel is the Josh Jacobs situation. What is going to go on with Josh Jacobs? Is he's going to come in and play on that franchise tag, or he's going to pull a Saquon Barkley and get the signing bonus up front and still get a little over $10 million? That is the biggest question for the Las Vegas Raiders. I understand that we have other things as far as like what Jimmy Garoppolo is going to look like after that foot injury, and what is going to look like for Josh McDaniels. Can he bounce back from the 6-10 season that he had last season? Yes, we had a real tough season. We had a lot of leads in that season last season. A lot of leads that we blew due to the offense. And just like Jake said, the Derek Carr era is officially over. Was it Derek Carr, or was it the rest of the team, or was it Josh McDaniels is the reason why the Raiders did not succeed? But when it comes to the Denver Broncos, biggest storyline for me, you did say Sean Payton, but for me is your wide receiving core. Now you lost Tim Patrick to a torn Achilles. That is a big loss for the Denver Broncos. Now for the Chargers, you did actually sign Justin Herbert. Now you got to see if you could put it together and actually get over that hump after that big loss against it. And Brandon Staley, this is a make or break year for him in his third year. This is a make or break year for him. And I feel like in the second year for Josh McDaniels, it might just be a little bit of a make or break year for him, but it's like bend, but don't break type of year. I think if you give Josh McDaniels a third year in this system, and he, still have a Devontae Adams and all the receivers that we have in this division, it's very spectacular. And all the tight ends that we have, what we brought in, Raiders brought in Austin Hooper, we got Michael Mayer, we got rid of OJ Howard, Waller got traded and for a third round pick, which we got Trey Tucker in the draft. So it's a lot of big storylines for the AFC West. We all know what the Chiefs is going to do. The question is, can us three teams compete with those Chiefs to go in and try to steal the division from them? That's what it really is.
Absolutely. And shout out to Raiders News today. Salute coach and groom to be. So, shout out to him. We know who that is. And shout out to our guy Wise. Appreciate you, my NFC East brethren, which I definitely have you on. And 3 weeks from tonight. So I'll fill you more in on that Wise. So we'll get that going. So I think I look at the storylines for the AFC West. You guys touch on it on great job with that. The Chiefs, like without Eric Bieniemy, and can this Chiefs team repeat as Super Bowl champions? The Chargers, and almost to your point, D-Hop, can they take that leap? We know that the Chargers are a very talented team. Like as far as they have, essentially, in my personal opinion, has they're below their expectations. In my personal opinion, I think this is on paper, this is a contending team. Like this is a team that could be, as far as contending for a Super Bowl. I mean, you look just at the talent alone. And then also with Kellen Moore. Now, I think this is one where I think people really gonna see what Kellen Moore is all about. Because to me, I'm always impressed when guys get fired and then 48 hours later they get a job. So that's another thing. It's just a testament to Kellen Moore there. The Raiders, with Jimmy G's situation, like, is he gonna, as far as how that will be, and he has somewhat of a chip on his shoulder, especially, how things went in San Francisco. And, so I definitely look at that as a storyline. And then with Jordan, I think Sean Payton, they got a grown man as a head coach there, and it's gonna just see was this Russ fault or not. And then funny that we talked about Joe Lombardi, he comes over to Denver and just see what he's gonna do with Russell Wilson. So this is gonna be a really intriguing division to say the least. This, how everything will play out. So, fellas, let's talk about essentially some storylines. Well, not storyline, but some players to watch in this division. And I'll go with you first. D-Hop, I'm going to go with you first.
So the players to watch, I'm going to say my Raiders last, but players to watch in this division and for the Denver Broncos, just the defensive side of the ball in itself. They was a great defense last year outside of their offense being really bad. But if you look at the offense now with Jared Jeudy, he's going to be that star for them. You got Cortland Sutton over there too. So there's some players to watch. That whole entire defense for the Denver Broncos was good. But on the offensive side, how can Russell Wilson get back to Russell Wilson with Jared Jeudy, Noah Fant, and Cortland Sutton? Those three is going to be players to watch for the Denver Broncos. Now for the Chargers, y'all have plethora of receivers. Y'all got the guy Johnston from TCU, was a steal in the draft. Your defense is still going to be good, though. Kenneth Murray's still a good linebacker. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, those boys. Derwin James is there. That defense is still going to be where they're at. Justin Herbert. And for me, the only concern I have for it is your running back. Austin Eckler. That's my thing. Is he really going to come out and play? Because, he did request a trade. So, but I think offensive wise, you have Keenan Allen. You got Mike, I think it's Mike Williams, if I'm not mistaken. But now you get Johnson out of TCU. I think you have some plethora of weapons on the Chargers side, on the offense side of the ball. I think you have enough weapons, even in the running back coming out the backfield. So the Chargers do have some weapons. Now for the Las Vegas Raiders, of course, players to watch for. Hunter Rivers going to have a bounce back year. Just from watching him in training camp, he's going to have a bounce back year. Devontae Adams is going to be Devontae Adams. We already know he was like second in the league in touchdown receptions. I really want to see Michael Mayer. I really want to see Austin Hooper in here, and hopefully Josh Jacobs can come back. Now, with the defense side of the ball, it's a little bit different. Players to watch, of course, is Max Crosby. Now the players to watch is see how can Chandler Jones bounce back from the season he had last season. So we're really young on the defensive side of the ball, mixed with a few veterans. But for me, I think all those weapons for these three teams is really going to be good competition. Now for the Kansas City Chiefs, they do have Sky Moore that's going to be coming into his second season. Isaiah Pacheco, the running back from the Kansas City Chiefs, he's going to be another guy to watch for. Of course, we don't even mention Travis Kelce because it's Travis Kelce at the end of the day. So it's Travis Kelce. Of course, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is for real. He's the top quarterback in this division until we get him off this throne. So players to watch for. I could say all of our quarterbacks is players to watch for, but the weapons around our quarterbacks is going to be the players to watch for.
Absolutely. Jake, what you got on yours as far as your players to watch in this division?
Well, we'll start with, obviously, and I hate to say it, but with the Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, the players to basically watch is that I'm curious to see, how Kadarius Toney will literally play with, another year in this Kansas City offense. Now, the only thing is that, yes, this is a team now that's going without Eric Bieniemy, and they're going more leaning towards a Matt Nagy offense. So that will be interesting to watch, with Patrick Mahomes in this receiving core. But I do think, with Kadarius Toney in this offense, it will be interesting to see, does he get faster? Does he start to produce more? And will he be healthy this time than what a lot of, people have been kind of, worried about in New York? Because we know in New York media, they love to rip a lot of players when they don't meet expectations. So, we know that Kadarius Toney's been poking the bear in New York media lately, but if he gets a healthy season, he'll be interesting to watch. Plus, I'd like to see how the second year will be for Isaiah Pacheco, because to be honest, I mean, they've moved on from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They found out that he really isn't the running back. He did not he didn't really transition well from college to the NFL, to be honest, with after being on that loaded LSU offense. So they found, their secret weapon in the 7th round of running back from Rutgers. Who would have thought, this kid would have been fast. This kid kind of gives you a little bit of like, not fully of a Kareem Hunt feel, but like we all knew how it was when Mahomes first officially started with this team, how Kareem Hunt was running. He kind of gives me a little of that feel for Isaiah Pacheco. So he'll be interesting to watch from there. Defensively, it'll be, I'm kind of curious to see how Trent McDuffie does without Juan Thornhill, because remember, this is also one of their premier corners that they've let go in free agency, and he goes and signs elsewhere. So, and remember, Juan Thornhill had more of an impact in that secondary than a lot of people realize. Now, I know there's a couple of other up-and-coming corners, but I think Trent McDuffie in his second year, he's got some positive upside. I think the Kansas City Chiefs, their defense is going to be interesting. They add Drew Tranquill to the linebacker core with Nick Bolton. So they probably get a little mixture of some speed and a little bit of some aggressiveness as well on that end. The LA Chargers, the one thing that I can say about this team is that the player to watch for sure is definitely going to be Quentin Johnston. I think this kid's been the real deal. He's been nothing but loud buzzing noise in training camp because of just his highlight plays, plus his route running when he's been playing one-on-ones against corners and usually against slot corners. He has been absolutely exceptional. And to be honest, he's literally looking like the healthier version of what we would have wished we saw from Mike Williams when he came out of Clemson. So I think that's a good positive upside. Plus, they've got size, they've got speed, they've got really good route running skills. And to be honest, because as I've said before, now that Justin Herbert is the highest paid quarterback in this league, I have a feeling this is going to be the last year with Keenan Allen in a Chargers uniform. It's hard to maintain with receivers, with him and Mike Williams getting paid $20 million a year. You're trying to keep yourself in the middle of that salary cap, which is very competitive, but you've got potentially his suitor in Quinn Johnston, who kind of gives you flashes of the same route running skills that makes him such a force when it comes to yards after catch. That's what made him such a steal in the draft, is just not because of what he was basically running or, can he catch the football and all these amazing catches, but it's more of, can you really get this guy down once the football's in his hands? That's going to be the real question. And defensively, there's been some talks about, Asante Samuel Jr. He's been kind of struggling a little bit up in camp, but now there's positive upside. And the other part that I've been hearing has been much, much better is that run defense. That run defense has been literally ranked the lowest in the last 3 seasons that has been under Staley's coaching. And so this is going to be interesting to see the run defense. Now, we know Austin Johnson is sidelined right now for the moment, but we're hoping to have a comeback here from him. Eric Kendricks is now a part of that linebacking core because Kenneth Murray needs to work. All these guys in the linebacking core need to show up, and the front line of that defense with Sebastian Joseph Day and several others on the front line, plus 2. You got Thule from USC, a rookie from there that's going to give you some extra pressure. So I think the Chargers have some upside up on it. But yeah, this is going to be the year that you're going to see this team play better, act better, and they're going to be playing every single game like it counts. The Las Vegas Raiders, we know right now it's the end of the Derek Carr era. So Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be interesting to watch command this offense. You're talking about a guy who's been in the conference championship now for the last couple of times. He's been in San Francisco. Now, we know he does not turn the ball over as much because we know that used to be very drastic for Raider fans when Derek Carr would turn the ball over most of the time. But it's how fluent this offense can move the chains, because we know it's either going to be passing or you're going to be relying on Josh Jacobs to give you yards per carry. Now, we know with Jacobs, the Raiders are so close, but they are going to, at some point, get a deal done. I do believe it. Jacobs is going to bleed a Raider for life, and we know that he doesn't want to leave this organization. So they'll get a deal done. Michael Mayer is going to be interesting to see, because without Darren Waller now, and we know the injuries came up, we know he's going to be a player that's going to give you both the blocking tight end side, and he's going to give you offensive production as well. We've seen a couple of his highlights in Notre Dame where he's been pretty explosive. Now, I'll be honest, I don't think, because the people are asking, is he the Gronkowski type? No. The Gronkowski type that's still there is a guy I'm going to look forward to for next year's draft. Hopefully that the Chargers may look at if they don't come to terms with Gerald Everett, and that's Brock Bowers out of Georgia. That kid's going to be very electrifying when he finally gets to the league. But Michael Mayer gives you some real good spurts, and I think that's where Jimmy Garoppolo really will like his presence as somebody who's very connected with George Kittle in that San Francisco offense, but also, too, like Darion mentioned about Hunter Renfrow. Notice how many times Jimmy Garoppolo has utilized the passing when it came to Deebo Samuel. I think you're going to probably see a little bit of some similarities with Hunter Renfrow as well, because we know he has the hands, we know he has the speed, but he's also very elusive because we see how he looks deep, like downfield. Even if he's doing short bubble passes, he's going to find the holes to not only give you just 5 yards, but 15 extra yards. And that's what's going to be very important for the Raiders offense. And then finally, the Denver Broncos. I think, honestly, the player to watch, it's going to be Russell Wilson, because people saw the worst in Russell Wilson last year. Now, can we see a Russell Wilson bounce back this year with a more strong alpha head coach in Sean Payton, who gives you the similarity of a Pete Carroll vibe? That, listen, it doesn't take one man to run this offense. It takes an entire offense as a whole to run this offense. And you got to have somebody that knows how to play offensive play schemes that he has for the longest time, that's given him a Super Bowl ring, and that's very competent. So I think Sean Payton really is going to get the best out of Russell Wilson, take him out of his comfort zone, and realize, look, my way didn't work. I'm going to give this to Sean Payton, and he's going to lead the way. And we're going to figure this out all together. Now, I know Tim Patrick, it's hard. Back-to-back years where he's been injured. But the one player, honestly, that I would love to see to step up with KJ Hamler hurt is Marvin Mims. I've been hearing an awful lot of some positive upsides, at least with Oklahoma. Now, we know small, a little bit agile, but he can be an explosive X factor if Sean Payton knows how to utilize him right. I mean, think about it. He's used Brandon Cooks. He's used a couple of other short, wide receivers. But even the defense as well, DJ Jones and also, Randy Gregory, that defense always knows how to bring the crush. No pun intended. So I think if we see that, the secondary is going to be explosive. But, that's my honest opinion with some of these players in the AFC West. It's going to be stacked and competitive.
Absolutely. Jordan, what you got?
Well, if I look at my team, the Denver Broncos, we drafted Patrick Surtain a couple of years ago. He played well in his rookie year with 14 passes defended. Last year, only 10, so 2 picks. We know the defense is going to be great, but did he step up? I want those numbers to improve. With the Kansas City Chiefs, we all hit on it. It's Patrick Mahomes. The question is how will he do without Eric Bieniemy? And then I look at their offensive line. Who's going to play the tackle positions? Because that was an issue last year, but they obviously protected him well enough to go to the Super Bowl. And they're going to have someone to emerge to catch the football at wide receiver. We know he has Travis Kelce, but who else is going to step up to be a playmaker? For the Chargers, Justin Herbert. I understand he's played well for the last 3 years. Obviously, he got a huge extension. The question is, can he keep up what he's done? He's passed for 14,089 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 35 picks. That's why he got the extension. Can he keep up his play? For the Raiders, really, I look at that. They're going to be on defense. We know they're going to have Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback, but Devontae Adams, can his numbers improve? He played really well last year with 1,516 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns. Now Jimmy Garoppolo, can those numbers be even more improved?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll transition now to some breakout players, and it's more so. I put it more so in the sense of players that many people may not know. Like I would say, like the casuals don't know, but it's a name to be, a breakout player that you see in each. It could be your team specific or within the division as well. So I'm gonna go with you first, Jordan. Who's your breakout players in the AFC West?
Well, I know he's not a household name, but we've talked about our our wide receiver that we picked it out of Oklahoma. Man, I mean, can he step up? We know the loss of Tim Patrick really hurt us. And we have obviously Jared Judy. I'd like to see more out of Jared Judy and Cortland Sutton. So the question is, can Mims be that second or third roster? I'd love to see him as a second wide receiver. Then you can put Jared Judy in the slot. But either way, I think if Mims can step up, then we don't have to worry about Jared Judy dropping the football or Cortland Sutton being matched up, double team. So that's what I'm looking at for the Denver Broncos is Mims, our wide receiver, as well as Montrell Washington. He's another guy that we drafted last year. He had an okay season, but now can he step up to be that fourth wide receiver?
Yeah, absolutely. Jake, what you got?
I think honestly the breakout player, and it's basically obvious, but it's definitely going to be Justin Herbert this year. Because the fact of the matter is that last year was basically an okay year from Justin Herbert. And the reason of that too is because even with Joe Lombardi's offensive coordinating, the dink and dunk never worked with a premier player like this. You need to unleash the arm. You need to be able to make sure that he's throwing passes that are literally 15 to 20 yards plus. And I think that's where Kellen Moore is going to release more of that. Because the fact of the matter is that when you look at how the Cowboys were scoring all last season, it's because of the fact that Kellen Moore trusts a lot of how the offense plays. Now, the other part, what's going to be different is that Kellen Moore has an expendable amount of options with Justin Herbert versus what he had with Dak Prescott. Because with Dak, yes, he's smart. Yes, he can throw accurate on short to mid-level passes, but he can't always throw the ball deep downfield on a consistent basis. That's why all of us criticize him with the annual salary he gets per year. Because for that, you better hope you got a Mahomes or an Allen or a Herbert or a Burrow level type quarterback just to be even paid $40 million a year. But this is where you're really going to see the best upside of Justin Herbert. Now, mind you, think about it this way. I almost compare it to the first 3 seasons with how Peyton Manning started with an organization like the Colts. Because Peyton came into his own and knew that he had to deal with a dysfunctional organization like what the Colts were and made that franchise. Justin Herbert walks in almost just as similarly as Peyton did with the Colts and deals with the dysfunction that the Chargers have been dealing with for years. But they know they've come from a pedigree of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and it's a positive upside. And I think for this to unleash an offense that's going to pass more, that's going to utilize running. And yes, Austin Eckler, he's going to play. And this is the quote that he said, is that he wants to play longer with this team. It ain't about putting a little bit of, sugar on the top, to kind of make it sound great. It's because he sees the progress of this offense. And with Kellen Moore there, you're going to get the explosiveness this team deserves. And we're not going to play this out routes because we're so close to the red zone line, because that drove me nuts against the Dolphins. Is why are we playing out route? Go in for the kill. Even the last game in his second year against the Raiders, you score, you don't reason with the enemy. You go for the kill. I think this year, you're going to see that narrative, and the Bolts are going to be charging up lightning speed.
What the old song with thunderbolts and lightning? We're lighting the sky. What you got, D-Hop?
So, I mean, we already talked about this player, but I feel like he's going to have a bounce back year. And the breakout player for me is Hunter Renfrow. I mean, if he could get back to that 2021 season with 103 receptions to at least 1,038 yards, and he had 9 touchdowns in 2021. I have to say Hunter Renfrow probably won't have 100 receptions, but can he get back to that 60, 70, almost 80 range? I think he can with this offense and how Josh McDaniels wants to run it. If you look at the slot receivers that Josh McDaniels had between the Julian Elements of the world or the I forgot the other guy's name. The other
Wes
slot
Walker?
receiver. Yes, Wes Walker. I couldn't get his name out. But
Okay,
you see
yeah.
what he could do with those type of receivers in the slot. Now, when it comes to Hunter Renfrow, the question is, can he stay healthy? He did have a lot of concussion protocols last season. The question is, can you put him up? Can you make sure he's 100% healthy? Now, I do have a breakout player on my defensive side as well, and people might not talk about him, but it's going to be Marcus Peters, because Marcus Peters is going to bring a swag to this defense, knowing that he's a trash talker. He's been in this division before with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's been in this conference with the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like he's going to break out, even though he might not get a lot of interceptions, but he's going to bring a swag. He's going to bring an attitude, and we're going to play aggressively, and we're going to play with play with more continuity this year. So Hunter Renfrow and Marcus Peters for me are my breakout players.
So all right. So this is where we're gonna do the hot takes. So I gotta get you guys some bold AFC West picks. That picks are just in anything when it deals with it. Any bold prediction, bold anything. So I'm gonna go with you first, D Hop. Your bold AFC West take.
The bold take is that Jimmy Garoppolo would throw for 4,000 yards and make the playoffs. That's a bold take. He will stay healthy all 17 games.
Ooh.
You said bold.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, you said bold, so I threw it out there. We
a
make
little
the
spicy
playoffs.
too.
Yeah, a little spicy. You know how to drink some water real quick.
I love it. What you got, Jake? What's yours?
My bold take, and this might be a little bit cheesy, but my headline, at least for the entirety of the year, is NFL World Thunderstruck. Chargers exercise their demons and win the Super Bowl with an MVP on Justin Herbert's belt.
That's not cheesy. That's spicy. What? You put some spice on that cheese. Listen,
this come with some chips. This cheese is queso cheesy.
Salsa con queso, man. Oh yeah, you're gonna need a little bit more spice.
Okay, nice. Okay, Jordan. I mean, hey, these guys bought the heat. You have to blow the roof off this one here.
Unfortunately, I don't. I mean, my bold prediction is that with the new head coach and Sean Payton, I'm going to say Russell Wilson throws for at least 3,500 yards. I'm going to say 28 touchdowns. I'm going to go with 12 interceptions, and somehow, some way, the Broncos finish 10-7 and they get to the playoffs for the first time since 2016. One Super Bowl.
That's hard as well. That's a hard take as well.
If it's got to help you, I think the best headline would be Broncos country riding to redemption.
Right, exactly. I got so sick of Broncos country let's ride. I'm like, I wanted to get off the ride last
year. Well, and shout out you guys for making it unlimited.
Hey, you would not be surprised if all 4 teams make the playoffs, though. Don't be surprised if you see
that's another bold take.
That's a bold take in itself.
Too, yeah, it's gonna be interesting for sure.
Ooh, my man Doug.
What's up, Doug? What's going on, man? Said the Chargers will have the number 1 offense in the league this season.
That's pretty bold.
I can see that. I can see that.
I mean, with the acquisitions they got, I mean. That's
just the fluidity of the offense is what it's going to look like too.
But you got to think about it. He a Cowboys fan, so you got his old offensive coordinator. That's why he's throwing it out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey. Shout out to dude.
He's got the son of at least the great. Shout out to Ryan Schottenheimer. Dad was obviously the greatest.
Yeah. Emotional damage as a Commanders fan. Yeah. I'm so glad he gone. I'm so glad James signed to go. But this is not an NFC East.
The entire NFL world is happy for all of you guys. Honestly, like that is the greatest.
Yeah,
it is the greatest in NFL history. And the best is that your owner literally gave y'all free beer, dude. You guys deserve it with all this
Yeah.
mess.
As a Raiders
Right.
fan, I'm absolutely ecstatic because y'all got my coach John Gruden fired because of the Commanders. So
right. Yes.
I'm
I know,
absolutely
right?
ecstatic now.
Yeah. Wow. It's so wow. So it's prediction time. It's regular prediction time. So I'm gonna go around the horn, fellas, and I want you to give your AFC West records prediction. I'm gonna go with you first. Let's see. I did the round robin. I'm gonna go with you first, D Hop. Your
Okay.
record predictions.
Can we do an unrealistic and a realistic one?
You can do whatever you want at this point.
Okay.
It's a
You got
preseason.
your honest, and you got your floor and your ceiling.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be completely honest. I mean, this is tough, man, because I really want my Raiders to go at least 11-6 or 10-7. But that's unrealistic because we have to see what this team can do. But do I see improvement? Absolutely. I think the Raiders will win at least 9 or 10 games this season, but the mostly 9. So it'll be what 9-8, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'll say 9-8 as an improvement, knowing that we win 3 extra games than we did last season. So I think 9-8, and the ceiling would be 10-7.
Okay. All right, Jake, what you got?
Well, this was definitely hard to predict, for one, because of the fact of last year, our bye week was later in the season. Now it's early this year. So that's going to be a little bit of, a question mark of how the Chargers are really going to deal with it. But my realistic record, I think this team's going to go 11-6 with a floor, which could be the worst outcome, probably would be 9-8. But their ceiling, if we get that lucky, would either be 12-5 or 13-4, because it ultimately comes down to the fluidity of the offense, like I said, with Kellen Moore. But I think 11-6 is just about as reasonable because you're facing Kansas City twice a year. And you're also got Denver that's not going to look the same from what last year was. And especially, it's hard to play in mile-high weather. So not going to be the easiest. Now I know whether on the road or even here up in Vegas in the Vegas bright lights, it's going to be a coin flip between the Chargers and Raiders. But the only lucky break the Chargers would have is if they double dip them. That's the lucky break. But that might be a little bit unrealistic. But we'll see how the rest of the season pans. But the first 4 games, I mean, Dolphins, Titans, Vikings, and the Raiders, that's a pretty solid 3-1 start from there. So if they get cooking pretty early, I think that's where you really are going to start to see the ceiling really rise up.
Yeah. All right, Jordan, what you got?
Well, with Sean Payton, if the offense looks a lot better than it did last year, and we know the defense is going to be great, I have the Broncos at 10-7. Well, of course, if we see the bad Russell Wilson and he starts throwing interceptions, can't make the right reads like he did last year, and leaves the defense out for far too long, I'm going to say this team is going to go 7-10 at worst.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. So we'll put a bow on tonight's AFC West preview. So I'm going to go around the horn, fellas. Final words, and then just promote what you got going on with whatever's going on with you, and you can do that. So I'll go to round robin once again. Well, no pun intended, the snake draft version of it. I'm going to you first, Jordan. Your final thoughts and where they can find you on social media and plug your projects.
Well, I'm hoping this is going to be a more competitive division than it was last year because I'll have quarterbacks who can actually play. As for where you can find me, you can follow me on Twitter at SportsScoop1. I also have a blog that I write Mondays through Fridays at sports-scoop.com. I'm also going to have a new show. I haven't figured out the details yet, but be sure to watch my social media for that.
Okay. All right, Jake, what you got?
Well, the final thoughts of it is that this is a bolt up or shut up year for the Chargers, because knowing that the head coach's seat is on fire and you can't afford to lose expectations on that. because if this team really does get over the top, this is going to be Keenan Allen's last year. They're going to have to pay Austin Eckler, which is kind of a little bit of a risk. But if it doesn't pan out, my biggest thing is I know Chicago's door is right there. I'll be knocking on it several times and say, hey, we've got arguably one of the best running backs currently in the league. We'd like some draft picks because in the end, I'm eyeballing in the second round that I might take that kid from Michigan, Blake Corum, if things don't end up panning out well for Austin Eckler. Because like we've all said, we know it's a tough subject, but running backs, the hardest position to play. They're going to hit 9 out of 10 times. Now, I do think that they should be paid respectfully, maybe about upwards of $10 million a year. $12 million based upon bonus and negotiation at best. But I'm not breaking my bank for this position. So you got to play your ass off as much as you can and get this team their first Super Bowl because the fans deserve it. The players deserve it. I'm not putting Dean Spanos on whether he deserves it or he doesn't because we all know he probably doesn't. But it had to take this long to finally do it. So this could be a new chapter written for the team. But if you want to find everything of all I talk about is pure honesty, unbiased, and balanced opinions, check out the Snake Sports Talk Show. We've been working on rebranding the show, of course, too. New logos, new look. We've got a new co-host. We've got everything that's going to be brand new and be ready for relaunching once we get to that point. Snake Sports Talk Show. You can find me on all social medias. Like, follow, subscribe, and hit the bell button for all latest notifications to keep you up to date.
Yeah, and crazy thing about with the situation, if your prediction is prophetic and it's true, you guys will win a Super Bowl in Las Vegas. And I know
in my hometown, man.
And for D-Hop, that I know that would infuriate you to the core.
Oh, that would be a stab in the stomach. That would. Oh man.
Yeah.
Put me on Law and Order right now.
That just means all you know what that means? That's going to be like in the scene of Infinity War where Thanos just snaps and there goes all that silver and lac dust disintegrating after just one lightning strike and they're just bolted and gone.
See, here we go with the iPhone and Android chargers. Here we go. He's starting already. Yeah, he's starting already. I try to stay quiet for him, but he's starting already. But it's all good. Yeah, Las Vegas is where the Super Bowl is at. So Raider Nation and the Las Vegas Raiders, you need to buckle up. If you want to get back to the Super Bowl, this is the time right now to get back to the Super Bowl and win it in our home stadium. We see the Rams do it. We see the Buccaneers do it. Now it's time for the Las Vegas Raiders to do it. This is a great division. I think it's the best division in football. I don't care about the AFC East. I don't care about the AFC North. I don't care about none of those other AFC divisions. This is the best division in the AFC, hands down. So with that being said, it's going to be a great division for all four teams. So make sure you can follow me on all social media platforms at NBR Pod 1, which is Nothing But Raiders Podcast. That's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We do have our shows every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but it's going to be more shows coming down the pipeline once the season actually starts. I will be doing my play-by-play of all the Raiders games on the Nothing But Raiders podcast as well. Shout out to my homie Chris and shout out to my homie Cheeto Linus, my two co-hosts for the Nothing But Raiders podcast. And you can follow us on, we will be going to audio platforms as well. Once the season starts, we'll be getting our first season of the audio platforms of Nothing But Raiders podcast going on. So yeah, that's basically what it is for me right now. Darion Hopkins Sports Show 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. That's all sports related, so y'all can go check that out.
All right. Yeah. So this concludes the AFC West preview. So we'll be back on Tuesday to do the NFC North and on the AFC North on Tuesday, and then next Thursday we'll be doing the NFC North as well. So appreciate you fellas for coming on tonight and previewing arguably one of the best divisions in the AFC. So once again, appreciate you guys for coming on tonight. And this wraps up the West portion of our NFL previews. Next week, it'll be all about the North, and we'll catch you guys next week. And this has been this week's Couch Coach Live, and we're out.
Peace out.